we bring in Sal Pal right now for a little extended stay here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, the author of How Football Defines America. Sal, I pulled that book out recently, too. And first off, it's nice to have you on. Welcome back.
Thanks a lot, Pat. I like the Rod Serling Twilight Zone opening for those of us who remember that show. And it's apropos of a lot of things. It's Halloween weekend, first of all. Second of all, the NFL, as you just alluded to, is scary right now. It's not scary good because scoring is at a 5-year low. It's scary, unpredictable. It's scary, wild. It's scary, wide open.
I know. And so let's start, Sal, with the scoring. You were kind enough to send to me during the week a look at the major trends here. The fewest points scored, as you mentioned, in the last 5 years. It's the worst since 2017, 21.7 points per game. Give me your immediate theory as to why you think this trend has developed so quickly in the first half of this season.
Right, Pat. And if you remember, during the COVID year of 2020, scoring was at an all-time high. Why? Because the NFL specifically decided to make a point of emphasis of calling holding, offensive holding, get it down, so that there was a number of offensive holding calls was at an all-time low. And as a result, it was very difficult, for defenses to generate any kind of pass rush in the National Football League. So as a result, scoring was way up 2 years ago, and now it is way down. I think and Brady and Rodgers, their struggles is all tied in. You've got high-end quarterbacks whose offenses are struggling, and we know why they are. Brady's without Rob Gronkowski. Rodgers is without Devontae Adams. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure this out.
Right.
It's not really that difficult.
Yeah.
You got unsettled quarterback situation in New England. Miami, the quarterback was out for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Very, very unsettled quarterback in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson has been suspended. Right. You have a new offense with the Las Vegas Raiders. You have a lot of different situations around the NFL where the quarterback situation, Washington, Indianapolis, go down the list. Very few teams where Dallas, another team where scoring is down. Of course, Dak Prescott was out for a number of weeks. And that's why the Eagles are bucking the trend. So last year, the Eagles were scoring 23 points a game. This year, 27 points a game. Why? Their quarterback situation is settled with Jalen Hurts.
Right.
They brought in his best friend, A.J. Brown.
Right.
They did basically the opposite of what happened in Tampa Bay and in Green Bay.
Yep.
Their quarterback got settled, the position got settled, and he got the target he wanted.
Yep. And you mentioned it too, Sal, about the quarterbacks. The fact is, you and I mentioned in a prior show about how the league was now overrun with parity. And that's mainly now because these teams have come back to the pack. These marquee teams have now come back to the pack. And it's how I think teams like the Giants, you mentioned now stability of quarterback. Now, the Giants have that, but he's not very good. But still, teams like the Giants that are not, to me, talented teams, or the Jets too, for that matter, not talented teams, and certainly no marquee quarterbacks, but they're able to get winning records because they're staying close. All these games are close. You mentioned that before too. And they're managing to win them. And that's how all of a sudden you have surprisingly teams that are breaking away from the pack are not your teams, as you said, like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady.
Sure. And let's take the Giants, for example. Daniel Jones only has 2 turnovers this year. He was plagued by turnovers his entire career. That's why the Giants didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Secondly, the Giants brought in Wink Martindale, and we talked about this the first week on this show, how the Giants would be scary on defense,
right? Because
they brought in Wink Martindale from Baltimore,
right.
And now the Giants are the number 1 blitzing team in the NFL.
Yeah. How about that? And now let me try this theory on you, Sal. This is not now indicative of a wave of points. I'm not saying that, but it could be, but I think it can account for some of this drop. The NFL obviously is been bitten by this analytics bug that has nearly destroyed Major League Baseball. And don't you think some of these points are not happening because teams are going for it with much more regularity when they're in certain field goal range? And field goals are being eschewed now. They're not taking the sure three. They're going for it. They're not getting it half the time. Points are down.
Yeah, it's going to cost Brandon Staley his job for sure, I think.
Yeah.
And it is a factor for sure. I think it's a factor. But remember, the big chunk of points in the NFL comes out of the passing game.
I know.
And when you have problems at the quarterback position like you have all across the league, only 14 teams are above 500, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Look at the Ravens. There's a classic example, Sal, that they have one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league. He's thrown 3 TD passes in the last 4 weeks. And last week only attempted 16 passes against the Cleveland Browns. Talk about Lamar Jackson. It's just, again, indicative of quarterback play is down. Offensive line play, I think, Sal, is down. There seems to be a critical shortage of quality players on the offensive lines. And the teams that have them, Philadelphia, Kansas City, somehow the Raiders have managed to do it. They are dominating at the line of scrimmage, and that's resulting in wins.
Yeah, well, the Raiders have only beaten Denver and Houston, so I really wouldn't worry about. I really wouldn't worry. Those are 2 of the weaker teams in the league. I wouldn't worry about Las Vegas Raiders just yet.
But they're running the ball so well. It's shocking.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but they haven't scored that many points, Pat.
Yeah. All right, listen, Sal, when we get back, I'm going to take a break here, and then when we get back, I want to pepper you here 60 minutes wise with some stock up and stock down. Let's talk about this Eagles-Steelers game. And then we'll do some stock up, stock down. There's a number of teams and players I want to get your opinion on. Is now the time to buy low on them, or is it time to sell high on them? We'll do that with Sal Pao when we get back on This Week in Pro Football. Matt Callahan back here This Week in Pro Football on Jakib Sports. Week number 8, the National Football League, and my great friend Sal Paolantonio joining me here from the NFL Matchup Show, senior analyst at ESPN, and also doing color commentary. Are you lined up this weekend, Sal, to be doing a game?
No, I'm doing the ESPN radio booth next week at MetLife Stadium for the big Buffalo Bills at New York Jets with Steve Levy. Yeah.
Good for you. Good
couple
for
of
you.
State school kids from New York.
Yeah. How about that? A couple of big weekends coming up for Jet fans in the Meadowlands. Next 2 weeks, New England and Buffalo coming in. Yeah,
this is the big one right here. Patriots coming. We're going to find out a lot about Patriots and Jets. We're going to find out a lot about Robert Saleh.
Right.
And we're going to find out a lot about Mac Jones.
I was shocked, Sal, the Monday night game. I was shocked at how poorly New England played in that game against, to me, a Bears team that is average at best, and the Bears dominated that game. So you never know. Like you said in the last segment, you just never know this league. It's so wildly unpredictable what's going to happen from week to week.
This is a very unpredictable year. I call it the year of living dangerously in the NFL.
Well, there you go. All right, Sal, a couple words, if you will, about the Eagles-Steelers game. First off, your thoughts on the Eagles trade for Robert Quinn, and are the Eagles finished, in your opinion, relative to the trade deadline?
All right, let's take Robert Quinn first. Rich get richer. So, Pat, entering the bye, the Eagles defense was number 3 as a team in ESPN's pass rush win rate metric, behind only Jacksonville and Dallas. So they were getting to the quarterback with their pass rush. Now you add Robert Quinn, and Robert Quinn is going to play off the right side, attacking the left tackle. That is his strength. Right. He still has bend. He still has an explosive first step. Last year, he was very productive. As you know, the numbers, 18.5. This gives them depth. This reminds me of 2017 when the Eagles brought in Chris Long.
Yep.
Which segues to your second question. If you remember, Howie Roseman brought in Jay Ajayi from Miami. Yeah. So I don't think that Howie's done. I think he's still looking for more depth at the running back position. Yeah. Again, go after your strength and buttress it. Yeah. The Eagles right now have the number 1 running game in the National Football League. Most rushing touchdowns, best O-line, highest volume in production in terms of rushes. You need another back. I don't like seeing Jalen Hurts as the short yardage fullback.
Right.
He's the short yardage fullback.
Right.
as your quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got number 1 on his jersey, not number 45.
I agree. We talked about that too. The Eagles should not be pounding him as much as they are. And I think you're right. He might be looking for somebody because I don't think the Eagles backfield right now, that guy does not exist. They don't have that
No.
Jay. Sanders is playing terrific, but they
Pat,
need that.
You got the quarterback ducking the crown of his helmet into the offensive and defensive lines, trying to get yardage, and guys are pushing from the back.
Yeah.
Anything could happen to hamstring, knees, head injury. It's only week 8, Pat. He's got to last till way into January.
Back to the defensive side, the Eagles are plus 12 turnover ratio, double that of the second team in that listing, being Dallas Cowboys at plus 6. And Quinn, if he's good at anything, Sal, he's good at that edge rush, and he is very adept. I remember as a Ram fan, the Rams drafted him. He is excellent at dislodging that ball from the quarterback as he passes them when he rushes the passer. So I think you're right. It is rich get richer. I think the Eagles they're getting themselves geared up. Now, Dallas made a slightly less splashy deal during the week, trading for an interior lineman.
Yeah, because as you mentioned in your open, Pat, right? These two teams are gearing up to play one another. Right? So the Dallas Cowboys go out and get Jonathan Hankins, who they know because they played against him when he was drafted by the New York Giants. And they need to stop the Eagles' interior run game. Jason Kelce and those 2 mauling guards.
Right.
So they get a D tackle. And the Eagles know that eventually they're going to have somebody who can go up and under from the right side, Quinn, and grab onto Dak Prescott, just like Hassan Reddick goes up and under and gets the football from the left side.
I know.
So you got those 2 guys who can go up and under and bend and get to Dak Prescott and have a little bit of speed and a lot of flexibility. I think it's pretty good.
The Eagles are going to be formidable. Not that they haven't been up till now, but I think that's a great addition by them. And especially because the Bears are picking up 90% of the tab for the rest of the season.
That's crazy, right? It's crazy.
I know.
Coming off their best win in probably 3 years.
Exactly. And the Bears are sitting there in that NFC North at 3-4. They're in the mix. They're in the mix for one of 7 playoff spots.
For what? $13 million? It's Chicago. It's the second largest media market in the country.
Very interesting. I don't know. All right, Sal, let's do a little stock up, stock down here. We're not quite at the halfway mark, but I know you, when you're financial guy that you are, you're always dabbling. So how about we do this? I'm just going to hit you.
I take all my financial advice from you, Pat.
So I want to hit you with team names and player names. And what I want you to do is assess where they are right now and whether you're going to buy low on them if they're struggling, or if, in the case of a couple of teams, whether you're going to sell high thinking that they may have reached their apex. Let me start with the former and get the half empty out of the way right now. And Aaron Rodgers, very vocal, Sal. He's very vocal when it comes to calling out somebody else. And he did that after another terrible effort in a loss against the Commanders, saying that some guys got to be benched if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Is this a time to buy low on the Green Bay Packers, or do you think we might have a systemic problem here?
Well, wasn't he also calling out his head coach by proxy?
Yeah.
Right? He was calling out Matt LaFleur when he was calling out the players, right?
Yeah.
So, again, when you're a team captain or a team leader or a CEO or you're a lieutenant or colonel in the field, you go, hey, we're going to start with me.
That's right.
We're going to start with me, and I'm going to do what I can to help you get better, right?
Yeah.
And the last thing you do is go on a show and start pointing fingers at somebody else. You wouldn't even do that in private, no less in public. So that's an endemic problem. So I am definitely not buying low on the Green Bay Packers.
All right. Are you buying the GOAT himself? Are you buying TB12? The Buccaneers, shockingly, Sal, 3-4, and they are not scoring. We talked about the offensive lethargy, which has grabbed the NFL. The Buccaneers, just in a terrible effort against Carolina last week, a game which they were a double-digit favorite. What are you seeing in Tampa Bay? Are you buying low?
Well, I'm buying low with the Bucs because they're in a different division. right? They're in the NFC South.
Right.
And probably 9 wins
Yeah.
wins that division,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
The Packers are in a division with the Vikings, and it looks like the Vikings are just getting better. Yeah, they're getting better.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing from their offense, and what we're going to show on the matchup show on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, a little preview, little shameless plug, Darius Butler is going to show a new wrinkle that O'Donnell has come up with in that offense.
All right. I look forward to that. I want everybody to watch that show. What are you, 19 years now, right? Is that right?
I am 19 years.
19. How about that? Sal, you mentioned the Patriots a few minutes ago. Now, are you buying on them? They sit at 3-4, coming off what I mentioned was a terrible effort against a very beatable Bears team. Now they go to all of a sudden a game that I think Bill Belichick must have marked off as a W back in August. Now all of a sudden looks to be a dawning game. Give me your thoughts on the Pats.
I am definitely not buying low on the Pats. Again, look at the division and look at the schedule. You know, they still have Miami, Buffalo, and the Jets, and all 3 of those teams are playing pretty well.
Yep.
So, no, I am definitely not buying low. They're, again, unsettled at the quarterback position. And you're right. Listen, Belichick said, well, we're going to play both. Really? If Mac Jones had 2 touchdown drives in the first quarter, were you going to take him out and put in Bailey Zappi? I don't think so.
No, I agree with you. One other name, Sal, I want to throw by, and obviously you're going to sell on this one, but I just think it's worth noting. Matt Ryan signs with the Indianapolis Colts. And the Colts, I'm sure, thought this is an easily winnable division, which it is, the AFC South, the worst division in the NFL. And it has all gone wrong in Indianapolis, at least offensively. Just give me your thoughts on a guy with a long and distinguished career like Ryan. It just seemingly, Sal, has been downhill ever since 28-3.
Well, I feel for Matt Ryan because he went into a situation that was bad for him. They didn't have an offensive line. Their best offensive player was hurt. Their running back. They couldn't get a stop on 3rd down. And he was getting pummeled. They were asking him to do too much for a quarterback of, where he is in his career.
Right.
So he's one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Matt will wind up on ESPN sometime at some point, I'm sure, or in the booth.
Yeah.
He won an MVP, and he came this close to winning a Super Bowl. So
yeah, it's a shame. You're right, but it speaks to these quarterbacks are hanging around a long time, and it's just something you and I will have to talk about throughout the season. Is Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they all have something in common besides being perhaps future Hall of Famers. And that is they're old in terms of football parlance. And maybe they stuck around just one season too long. Huh?
Hey, what's that old stuff, Pat? Come on.
I said in terms of football players, not the vibrant, youthful, the veneer that and I put out.
What's that old stuff, Pat? I mean, there's an old adage and everything. Don't stay too long.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I want you to stay long, though. I want you to keep doing this. This segment flew by here. Yeah. And I appreciate you joining me very much and look forward to talking to you again. We have so much to talk about, especially next week after the trade deadline. I want to hook up with you and see, because I think, Sal, there's some moves coming, not just in Philadelphia, throughout the league. It'll be interesting for you and I to sort that out, all right?
Sure. We had an off season with 193 free agents change teams, most in the NFL. So this is the reason why. You had upheaval in the offseason, and so you have unpredictability during the season, and scoring is down. I don't want to go all Sean Green on you here, but this is the 4th straight game Pittsburgh has been at least a 7-point underdog.
Wow.
The longest stretch for the Steelers since 1969.
Oh, my God. The year that Chuck Noll showed up in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
How about that, Sal?
How about
that
Pat?
is a stat. Now, that's a stat. Okay.
Now, I don't want to steal any of Sean's thunder. He does a great job on your show, but I need to throw that one out there.
Wow. That's something. That's something from Mike Tomlin. There's another example of what's all of a sudden become a football wasteland. It's really amazing. How the Mount Rushmore of NFL teams,
right? Yeah. Unsettled at the quarterback.
I know.
Where's the succession plan in Pittsburgh, New England, New Orleans, and Pat? When did the Packers trade Devontae Adams? March 7th. It's 7 months later, and they haven't figured it out.
I don't know. And class, and there's a classic example. Sal, there's a team that desperately needs a wide receiver. And yet I don't think the Green Bay Packers are going to do a thing. They just sit there. Go get somebody and call Aaron Rodgers bluff, but don't see it happen.
Call Howie Roseman. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Sal, thanks very much, pal. I appreciate you taking all this time. Look forward to talking to you next week. And everybody watch the matchup show Saturdays and Sundays on ESPN. Thanks a lot to Sal Paolantonio.